And welcome in, everybody, to the Inside Edge Network. I am Eli Moon. To my right, your left is Chad Bryan. And we were expecting to get on air a little bit earlier here today and break some news on the Cleveland Browns' new head coach. But as you're all probably wondering, and we're wondering too, what the heck is going on with the Cleveland Browns and their head coaching search? Welcome in, everybody, to a late night edition of Inside Edge Network. Again, Eli Moon, Chad Bryan. We're going to go over all of the news here for the Cleveland Browns today. A lot of Nate Scheelhaase watch, and is Jim Schwartz still in contention? So a lot to talk about here tonight. Before we get into all that, Chad, first off, how are we doing? I know in Ohio it's been crazy with Winter Storm Fern, but are you staying safe? And just how are the vibes?
Yeah, I ventured outside for the first time since the big winter storm today. Went outside and took the trash out down at the end of the driveway. Haven't gone back to see if they even came to get it. Don't care. Nature can have my trash can. I'm sure Waste Management will give me a new one. I don't know. That was an adventure in and of itself. We probably have about 15 inches of snow at my house, my best guess. Didn't stick the yardstick down in there or the tape measure or anything, but just dragging the trash can down. I made probably about a foot, I would say, indentation into the snow, and there's still at least 3 or 4 inches underneath it. So, man, I'm going to get the snowblower out tomorrow and hit that up. And I wasn't looking forward to that today. And I thought, we're not going anywhere today. The kids have a snow day. They have another snow day tomorrow. No hurry. I'll get there when I get there, right? It's going to be cold. It's going to be less than 30 for like 3 weeks now. It's not going to melt. So I guess it's going to be up to me to clean the driveway out, but I'll get there eventually, right? How are you?
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I'm doing great. I know I talked to you I went out during Winter Storm Fern here yesterday. Went out to Lake Erie. Never been out to Lake Erie with it being frozen, so that was a very unique experience. I went out there, did just some promotion for my album release show on February 27th here in Cleveland, Ohio, Brothers Lounge. So excited for that. And you mentioned the snowblower. I shout out my cousin. He came in, snowblowed our driveway yesterday. He did it again today. I think he really just enjoys using his new snowblower that he got for Christmas. But I'm not mad. If you want to help out, So me and Papa Moon, we appreciate him. And other than that, doing great. I'm really trying to figure out though, Chad. Me and you planned, like we talked at like 9:30, 10:30 this morning Eastern time, and we said, okay, the Cleveland Browns are interviewing Nate Scheelhaase. And for those just kind of tuning in and getting familiar with, like, when they hear Nate Scheelhaase and aren't too familiar, Nate Scheelhaase, the Rams passing game coordinator on offense. The Browns flew out to Los Angeles today because they were, regardless if the Rams won yesterday or not, they did lose to the Seahawks to not advance to the Super Bowl, so season over. The Browns were still going to go out to LA and interview him. But now it's an even more open book where hey, we can hire him. They spent all day interviewing Nate Scheelhaase, and still no deal. They only announced that they interviewed him, and that's, I guess, where we'll start. There's some other factors in play here. Buffalo, Jim Schwartz, but let's just talk about for a moment here. You have an all-day meeting, it seems like, 7-8 hours almost. Chad, why didn't they hire Nate Scheelhaase? Was there something he just didn't say, or I don't know?
I guess after 7 or 8 hours, they weren't ready to charge him with a crime. That sounds like an interrogation, not an interview. I don't know. I'm not really sure what happened. I would think that, listen, maybe they did offer. I don't know. People say funny things sometimes online. Like, don't let that man leave without, signing him to whatever. He has to agree, it's false imprisonment if you don't let him leave. You can't not let him leave. So I don't know. Who knows? For all we know, maybe they did offer him the job, and he said, I'm going to pump the brakes. I'm going to let me talk to the Bills because they have Josh Allen and you don't. And for all we know, something is in the works. Maybe they're hung up on language in a contract. And he could have, he could be using the Buffalo Bills as leverage to get a couple more million out of Jimmy Haslam. He could have, real vested interest in the Bills, which he, probably should, with Josh Allen there and James Cook. We've got a nice base offensively, something to work with. Mm-hmm. Probably need a wide receiver 1, but we know that feeling. We need a wide receiver 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Whatever. But that's neither here nor there right now. For all we know, maybe they did offer him the position. We don't know. It's just mum is the word on these things. That the Browns are weird about leaking the most bizarre information. I don't know where the personality test stuff came from. I joked on I don't even remember what show I was on. I made a joke about sitting down to interview with the Browns, and they hand you a piece of paper, and the first question, or the first thing on the paper says, a train leaves Des Moines heading west at 35 miles per hour, and it's like, no, not come on, man. Really? Like I got to do math. You never know.
And it's like the follow-up question on the same essay is like, if you're at, Flying Pilot J's and you're in a predicament, what do you do? I mean, like, I just don't understand. Like, what are the Browns trying to do here? It just seems like they always want to be this. Yeah, they always want to be the smartest guys in the room. And okay, they may be right this time. That's a very strong maybe, because there is a lot to like about Nate Scheelhaase. There's a lot to be skeptical about on the other side. For starters, I guess him being a Big Ten quarterback has become like some of the biggest news of the day is that he played in the Big Ten. He was a quarterback, but also just keep in mind he has been involved in high-powered offenses in college. Now he's with the Rams. He's really been with Sean McVay, learning from him. But then on the other side, we look at this, Chad, and he's not called plays, right? Like he doesn't pass.
Yep.
You're right, exactly. At the pro level, he's only been in the NFL for 2 years. Has, like I said, still not called plays. Yeah. 35 years old. There are some concerns, I guess, if you are the Cleveland Browns. Like, hey, if we bring in a 35-year-old and this doesn't work and we look stupid, and we've tried it almost every way. We've hired the veteran, we've hired the somewhat up and comer, but been around, and now we've tried the guy giving him his first gig and it still won't work out. I mean, I guess the Browns maybe are concerned. But if you're concerned about it not being Nate Scheelhaase, then why have you kind of messed around at this point? You've had 3 weeks. You took, forever to really do the process correctly. I think the Rooney Rule and how a lot of teams handle it is BS. I don't think they really even entertain it for the most part for some of these coaches. I think the Browns do treat it seriously. But there's still no reason you couldn't have interviewed Anthony Lynn 2 weeks ago and got the ball rolling. And that's what's disappointing to me is the Browns have done less in 3 weeks than what the Steelers have done with their head coach search. They have Mike McCarthy. And now just even another team, we're going to talk about them here, the Buffalo Bills. They also interviewed Nate Scheelhaase today. They announced on their Twitter right after the Browns. And like you said, Chad, it's like, if I'm Nate Scheelhaase, which I'm not, I'm Eli Moon, but if I'm Nate Scheelhaase here, do you look at Cleveland, Shedeur Sanders, Pro Bowl quarterback? We'll talk about that a little bit here in the show. But you look at the Browns, Shedeur Sanders. You have no offensive coordinator right now. You have to come in and do all that. Jerry Jeudy's, your wide receiver 1 right now. And then you look at Buffalo, and you look at, okay, there is some things I got to fix, but Keon Coleman, maybe we can get him back squared away at receiver. Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox are really strong at tight end. Yeah. You look at the running back room, James Cook, and then there's this guy at quarterback, Josh Allen.
He's a
why, Chad, would Nate Scheelhaase ever even entertain the Browns at the end all be all if Buffalo is still interested in bringing him in? I know they've talked to Joe Brady, their offensive coordinator, and that seems to be some fire there, but I just feels like the Browns us as Browns fans are going to be surprised almost at this point if Scheelhaase picks us, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, he's either going to be, I guess at this point you have to be a little bit of a glutton for punishment, or you kind of have to have that, I don't know, I almost said flaw. It's not a flaw. To just want to be the guy that's going to come in like, hey, I know everybody else has failed, but I can do this. I have a plan. I have, I'm going to lay it out for you. Here's A, B, C, and D. Here's a 4 step plan. I have no idea. It's going to take a lot more than 4 steps to fix the Browns. But here's my, I guess, mystery number step plan. Here's how I can do this. And I know I can do it. I'm confident, right? But I feel like everybody goes into an interview. You don't ever go. I've never walked into an interview and been like, hey, I don't know if I can do this job. I'll be honest with you. I don't know why I'm here. So no one's going to say that, right? Everybody's going to sound really confident in an interview. I guess it just comes down to the random, math problems and the multiple choice questions, the true and false, and the personality test that Jimmy Haslam cooked up. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. I guess to say looking, I don't know. It's so hard as a Browns fan to say why would he pick us, because I wouldn't. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I just wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of love. Listen, I like Shedeur Sanders. I think he's shown flashes. He's not Josh Allen. Like let's be perfectly honest. I think that's okay to say. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not who else had a coach opening? He's not Cam Ward. He's not these teams that have I don't know. Maybe he is Cam Ward. I mean, we don't know. Cam Ward didn't have much of an opportunity to show very much, and either did Sanders. So it's unfair, I guess, to really judge those two against each other. But I don't know. I'm trying to find a reason that I'm supposed to be optimistic about this. And I guess the only thing that I can say is, I mean, he's still pretty young. I mean, if everything goes wrong, he could actually play quarterback for the Browns, right? I mean,
yes. Technically, he would have a few years, probably, before he's 40, we at least get him in the quarterback room, get some competition there. No, it's so silly that we have literally gone through every name, and I got to take a little bit of accountability here. That I've been, really on the Grant Udinski train, really since, a few weeks ago, about the last 2 weeks. I'm like, it's got to be Udinski. It's got to be Udinski. And it doesn't appear that it's going to be, and it isn't going to be Grant Udinski at this point, because Grant Udinski or his agent or whoever said, hey, he's not interested. We're going to withdraw from the job. Now, does that mean because Scheelhaase is for sure the guy? It seemed like it this morning, right? Like when all that came out, it seemed like it was a formality. Is they got to do the interview and they're going to offer him the job. And then all the Buffalo stuff came out. Yeah. And the fact that Buffalo's still talking to Udinski, it just feels like, okay, so I'm going to break it down. Like, I have no shame. So back in high school, it was very tough for me to get like a homecoming date, right? All the pretty girls, they go ahead and they get with boom, boom, all the guys. And then I'm just, I'm standing there and I'm like wondering, I'm like, who's going to choose me?
I guess it's Jim Schwartz for me. Yeah, what am I going to do?
And that's the question. Really, is it Jim Schwartz, head coach after all? Because he's interviewed twice with the Browns. He's a defensive coordinator. He's been here establishing himself as one of the best defensive minds in football right now. Some will say, well, it's not tough to, I've seen that, just murmurs. It's not tough to, have Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. Okay, well, we've had other guys. The defense hasn't been very good. So, Jim Schwartz, a little bit older, at 59 years old, so it wouldn't necessarily be a 35-year-old offensive wizard, but it's a guy that has the pulse of the locker room, per Denzel Ward. There's clips that we've played here on this network of Denzel Ward saying, Jim Schwartz is just that guy. Like, we trust him. Myles Garrett even said, we love playing for Jim Schwartz. Or, he loves playing for Jim Schwartz. But if you're the Browns and you've interviewed this guy twice, Jim Schwartz, you've had him in your organization, why should we believe that he's the guy if he hasn't been brought in yet? Why are you going around all this? It just feels like Jim Schwartz is going to feel like Eli Moon back in, in high school, where it's like, oh, cool. So now I'm just, you didn't have somebody. So now I guess we'll just pair up. We'll do a few dances and then we'll call it a day. And that's not right to Jim Schwartz. And I can understand if he looks at the Browns and goes, hey, guess what? San Francisco has an opening at defensive coordinator. Robert Saleh is now the head coach over at the Tennessee Titans. So maybe I just go coach, returning Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and that defense. And now the Browns are sitting there not dancing with anybody.
Oh, my. Yeah, that's a terrifying thought. Listen, I think maybe the most optimistic of us, meaning Browns fans, like to think that maybe the Browns are holding out to talk to Clint Kubiak, right? Maybe there's a little bit of a school of thought online that, hey, maybe Kubiak is the guy after all, even though he's not catching much buzz. I mean, he's a little busy right now, right? So
yeah,
maybe that's what they're waiting for. But if I'll tell you what, if they are, and Kubiak's not the guy and he's not interested, then what? Because I would imagine by the time we get to Super Bowl Sunday, these other positions are going to be filled. I mean, everything's going to be stocked up. Like you said, no shade to any of Eli Moon's homecoming dates in high school. I don't know. I don't know who you were. But yeah, you're going to be stuck with, whatever. I don't want to say your homecoming date. I don't want to say that. But Schwartz, maybe Schwartz is a great choice. Maybe, the defensive guys really trust him. I've said it before. I'm sure the offensive guys at least know him. I'm sure they can go pick his brain, because if I'm a quarterback, I'm talking about defensive coordinator all day, especially as a guy, right?
Yep.
I'm talking to Jim Schwartz all day about, hey, if you were in charge of, like, if you were tasked with whatever slowing me down, what would you do? Because I want to know what's coming, right?
Yep.
But I have to go look at it on film 8 to 10 weeks down the road. I want to know what's coming.
Yeah.
So I'm sure these guys talk to him, and maybe he is the guy. And you hope that sometimes with age comes self-awareness, right? So maybe Schwartz is in there and he knows he's not the guy for the offense. So maybe he's willing to bring in a guy that is considered a young offensive wizard or whatever you want to say. And maybe at that point when there's that stability, when you've got Jim Schwartz and 53 guys on this roster are telling you, hey, we love Jim Schwartz, maybe then you can go out and take a chance on an offensive coordinator and somebody that might be willing to come in and mess around with that situation, as opposed to someone who's just looking at the way it's been for the last few years, which is the uncertainty under Jimmy Haslam and the offense has just been so stagnant under Kevin Stefanski. And you don't know, is that scheme? Is it coaching? Is it personnel? We don't know. So it's going to take some time to see.
Yeah, it's tough, and the Browns have definitely been taking their fair share of, remarks on social media across the board. 3 different head coaches, or candidates, that is, 2 that are now head coaches, that just withdrew from excuse me, 2 that are coaches. Mike McDaniel, one of them, offensive coordinator for the Chargers, unless he takes on another gig, but he withdrew from the Browns head coaching search. Jesse Minter, the new head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, we'll be seeing him twice a year. He withdrew from the Browns head coaching search, and then like the same day took the Ravens gig. And now we see Grant Yadinsky. And like I said earlier this morning, Chad, I was like, I was upset at first, but I'm like, just get Scheelhaase, and we're fine. And now we're just sitting here, we're in a position where I don't feel good because now both teams have had an interview. This is like going into, if you're the Browns, you're walking into a situation where you're just outmatched. You just got to hope that Scheelhaase sees the potential that the Deshaun Watson, his contract will be off the books here very soon. After this season, it'll get a little bit easier cap wise. The Browns do have 2 first-round draft picks, so you can really start shaping. If you're an offensive guy, the offense needs a ton of help here. You can make it your offense. Mm-hmm. So there are some things to like. We mentioned, and I've been on social media today, and I got to be on. I mean, every day, but I got to be honest. I've seen a lot of discourse, Chad, about our starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, and that would be one Shedeur Sanders. He was named a Pro Bowler. Now, I will say this: the Pro Bowl, as far as how much weight do you put on it, it's not really the same as it used to be, I feel. But the Browns, they have a Pro Bowler at quarterback. It is Shedeur Sanders. Let me ask you this: how much do you make of the buzz around Shedeur Sanders? Do you think a guy like Nate Scheelhaase is like, okay, he has that much promise that I can come in and make him not only Josh Allen status, but better than to get to the next level? Or is that maybe like the stopping point that we don't know if Scheelhaase even likes this situation? There's Shedeur, Deshaun Watson's gonna be back in that quarterback room, whether we like it or not, next year, and then Dylan Gabriel will be around. And unless they do anything in free agency or the draft, that is your room. Maybe that's what scares him.
It very well could be. It's hard to say what anybody sees in Shedeur Sanders. I think it's so hard to assess a quarterback's talent and to try to project a quarterback's, future, what their floor is, what their ceiling is. I mean, it's really hard until you've had a chance to really work with a guy. You can see things on film, but you're watching film in an offense that was a little antiquated, right? A little out of date. I mean, it just didn't really seem to really work toward the strengths of whatever it is that we had here on offense. I mean, it's not like Jerry Jeudy is a bad player. And for the record with Jerry Jeudy, a lot of people are like, hey, ship him out of here immediately. Maybe with a new head coach gives him a little bit of a new lease on life. Maybe that excites him. Maybe that gets him up a little bit. Maybe he's willing to get into the receiver room and put in work in the meetings and maybe put a little bit more effort forward. I mean, I don't know. Was it an effort thing? Was it an attitude thing? We don't really know. But yeah, it's just so hard to assess the quarterback. I don't know what these guys think. In my personal opinion, which means absolutely nothing in the scheme of things, as far as hiring a coach or what coaches think about Shedeur Sanders, I thought he showed a lot of flashes during the season. I thought he looked good. The Pro Bowl thing is what it is. I mean, the numbers weren't there. It seems a little weird or whatever, and it's fun to kind of laugh at it, whatever. But he's our guy, and I like Shedeur Sanders. If you ask me which of these three guys on the roster right now, Deshaun Watson, Dylan Gabriel, I couldn't think of his name, I blanked, or Shedeur Sanders, I'm picking Shedeur Sanders out of those three. I think it's he showed some things in some games. I mean, that Titans game that he had a great game against the Titans. And I know it's Tennessee. It's very easy to say, but those are NFL players as well. They're still the best of the best. I mean, they may be the worst of the best, but they're, collectively speaking, as far as like that group of guys that get into the NFL, these are the best of the best. These are really good football players.
Yeah.
And he looked really good, and he showed some other flashes. He made the hero ball stuff maybe has to get dialed back a little bit. We've talked about that on multiple shows on the network. But that's what you get with a rookie. I mean, Peyton Manning threw 584 interceptions as a rookie, and he turned out okay. And before you don't get excited, I'm not comparing Shedeur Sanders to Peyton Manning. I'm just saying that stuff can be dialed in, and you can get a guy heading in the right direction with the right coaching, with the right tutelage, with the right mentorship or whatever. Just sometimes guys learn differently, right? I may hear something from Kevin Stefanski. He may try to explain something to me, and it may make perfect sense. But it just for whatever reason, we don't mesh well, right? But then maybe Scheelhaase comes in and says something that's very similar, but he says it in a little bit different way, and for some reason it clicks, right? I mean, people are weird. Brains are weird, right?
Yeah.
You relate to certain people on a different level or whatever, and maybe Scheelhaase comes in and says something, and Shedeur says, "Hey, man, that makes a lot more sense to me. Like, I kind of get what you're saying." And then all of a sudden, like now you've got a quarterback that's like a second coach out there on the field, right? Like he can kind of diagnose all the little things that you teach him. I don't know. You just got to teach these guys layers of the offense. You can't dump everything on them at once. You can't have them at Baldwin Wallace throwing, passes to ball boys, whatever that was. That was a weird thing. I mean, what are we doing? We do the weirdest stuff here. I don't know. It's just answer these things because the Browns aren't a normal franchise, Eli. It's hard.
Yeah, they aren't. They aren't. They are tough to love. They are very tough to love. And it really just comes down to we talk about the quarterback position. I think the other thing that stands out to me too, right, is when you see like the Bills, like that Josh Allen is being involved to some degree of having the conversation, being involved in this head coaching search. You see other teams involving their star players in the coaching search more often than not. Okay, well, when I think of the Cleveland Browns, I think of our star players, Myles Garrett. I would imagine one of our top 3 to 5 star players right behind him is Denzel Ward.
Yeah.
Heck, I'd even say Carson Schwarzenegger, potential defensive rookie of the year. He's probably a top 5 player. So when I look at that, that's 3 guys on defense. Yeah. There's a guy in the room that we keep talking about that is literally like, hey, I've done 2 interviews with you. I'd love to lead this team. The defensive guys are like, hey, we'd love for Jim Schwartz to lead the team. At least one thing would be for certain, that the defense want to have, well, you'd hope, they want to have a setback. The one fear with that, however, is Jim Schwartz offensively. How do we develop there? And that's why I keep coming back to Scheelhaase. Or you mentioned Clint Kubiak potentially. There's some other names we'll throw out after the break. I'm gonna throw your way and see what how you're feeling towards those guys if this were to fall apart with Scheelhaase and Schwartz. But I'm just confused. Like, part of me is like, yes, you go with the pulse of the locker room. You go Jim Schwartz. You know what? Let's stop messing around. Especially if there's just a bunch of stuff going on with Scheelhaase. But then I just keep going back and looking at, for the most part, besides like this Super Bowl is a little unique. Mike McDonald, a defensive guy, Mike Vrabel, a defensive guy. But typically, there's been an offensive wizard in the Super Bowl. Yeah. So my brain just keeps going back to you got to get Scheelhaase. If you don't get Scheelhaase, maybe Kubiak or maybe some other names that have been pretty good experience-wise in the NFL. Yeah. So I just don't know. I don't know. It's a confusing time to be a Cleveland Browns fan. I feel like I've said that every year of my life, and I'm going to be 29 in July. I think I actually probably, so I was born in July. I'm about to date myself, but I was born in July of 97. So the football season started.
Wait. I love that you think you're dating yourself. I graduated high school in 1997, Eli. All right, you're fine, bud.
It was a big year for both of us, But a few months after that, the Browns were playing their football season. Or excuse me, they weren't. They would have been playing it, but they let me down then. And then a few years later, at about 2 or 3 years old, I was already, like, oh my goodness, the Browns are going to Browns. They're going to get in their own way. That's a saying for those tuning in nationally that we've said for years. The Cleveland Browns are going to be their biggest enemy. They've lost a bye week more times than I can count in seasons. And that's just frustrating. So I guess before we go, we're going to take a quick pause. Let everybody grab some caffeine. If you're on the West Coast, I know it's about 8:00 over there, 8:30. So, grab a cup of coffee, whatever you need. But we'll do a quick reset here in a moment. I want to ask you this before we go to break. Where is your comfortability level right now with the Cleveland Browns? 1 to 10, 1 being I'm okay still, 10 being I'm panicking. Where is your comfortability level that the Browns get this right, Chad?
Oh man, do you want me to answer this before the break? The comfortability level that the Browns get this right. 1 to 10. I got to be honest with you. Maybe this will be like a hindsight is whatever type of thing. But in the case of the Browns, you say hindsight is 2020. As you look back, there's plenty of chances that the Browns have had to do things. It seems like, listen, I guess to make a long answer short, I'm at about a 4.5.
Okay.
I just don't have a lot of confidence in the fact that it makes me feel a little bit better that Paul DePodesta is gone, because I don't know what he truly knew about football. To have him in here as an analytics guy makes me think he was solely financial, right? He was a baseball guy for the Mets before that. And we see the track record that the Mets have had. The Mets have not put a legitimate competitive team on the field that's been able to play 162 games and be there in October, right? They've always fallen apart. It's become their thing. And, to his credit, the Browns fell apart way before the end of the season while he was here. So maybe that's not all his fault. But I don't know. I'm about a 4.5, Eli. I don't know. What about you? I mean, where are you at?
You're doing a lot better than me. I'm at 8 right now, to be honest. I just feel like every time somebody withdraws from the coaching search, or just another thing doesn't go the Browns' way, and I know there's people out there that are painting the picture that this is how the Browns want it to be. This is their plan all along. And if it is, and they get Scheelhaase and it works out, then you know what? Everybody can come back and revisit here on January 26th of 2026 and look at this and say, you know what? Maybe we were freaking out too much. However,
it be 2027 because they're not going to time travel back. It is 2026 already.
Yeah, true. Time flies. I'll tell you this though. It's like I've seen this too many times. Seen the story too many times. I've seen where they settled, and took, Freddie Kitchens and made him the next head coach. I've seen where they thought they were the smartest guys in the room and they got Hugh Jackson, and Hugh Jackson's going to win. He's never going to go 115 again. He's going to go 0-16 the next year. So I just don't.
Kessler, trust me.
Yes, I got to be honest. Okay, being honest here. Cody Kessler, I tried to believe in. I was like, you know what, maybe. But I'm just sick of the same song and dance with the Browns. And that's what it's starting to feel like. But I guess we'll figure it out. We're going to take
wait real quick. We've all got a few clunkers on that list of 44 starting quarterbacks that we tried to believe in, Eli. It's not your fault, man.
Fair. No, I appreciate you, Chad. I appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody out there tuning in. We got a pretty strong audience. I want to remind you, if you're on YouTube or X here with us, you could chime in and share your discussion with Chad and I, and we'll see. We're all trying to figure out what the Cleveland Browns are doing, including the Cleveland Browns. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick pause. Go grab a drink. Chill out for a second. Keep us tuned in throughout the break. Just going to take a quick pause. We'll come back. We'll go over some other names that maybe could be some wild card options for the Browns, and then we'll put a bow on this thing. Reminder, the Inside Edge Network will be covering all of this coverage, covering the coverage for the Cleveland Browns coaching search. Should have an answer hopefully here soon. As soon as that news breaks, we will be back on the air to actually break down some more about it. But just we want to update everybody here on the Inside Edge Network, the family, that we got some answers, a lot more questions, and that's where we're at. So one thing I do also want to remind everybody, baseball, I know we're talking football here, baseball season is coming up here pretty soon. Chad and I, along with Autumn from Jersey Chasers and Rob Rizicki, with me on Main Event, we're going to be doing a Cleveland Guardians preview show, getting ready for the season. So keep an eye out on that. That's in February next month. Date still to be announced, date and time, but it will be here on the Inside Edge Network, and we'll be breaking down all Guardian stuff and prepping you for the MLB season. So, with that being said, we're gonna keep prepping you for the Browns' upcoming season. Super Bowl in a few weeks, but our Super Bowl is seeing if we can get Nate Scheelhaase or whoever. So, with that being said, that is Chad Bryan on my right, your left. I'm Eli Moon. This is the Inside Edge Network. Thank you so much for tuning in here. We'll be back after the break to go over a little bit more Cleveland Browns. So stay tuned. And welcome back, everybody, to the Inside Edge Network. I'm Eli Moon. To my right, your left is Chad Bryan. And we're breaking down what we expected to be a newsworthy day. The Cleveland Browns taking a shot at their next head coach and signing the dotted line with them. However, that is not the case. Nate Scheelhaase and the Browns met in Los Angeles today, and they did not have a deal yet. They did complete their second interview. The Buffalo Bills also went out and interviewed Nate Scheelhaase right after the Browns. And we're just wondering a lot of things here. But once again, Chad Bryan to my right, your left. You can catch him on Illegal Formation back on the weekends on Saturday. So check out Chad and TK there. And then obviously leading the NFL the pregame show, which, obviously with the Super Bowl coming up, keep an eye on that with stuff coming up for the big game. So great stuff there. And then I'm over on Main Event Sundays. Go check that out. Yesterday we just talked a lot about the games yesterday. So if you want to check that out, of course, go look at that. With Papa Moon producing him on Saturdays as well. So Chad and I keeping you busy on your Saturday afternoons. And just very good stuff. Then conversation with Eli Moon as well tomorrow, Tuesday. So check that out. It'd be really cool at 7:00. So let's get back to all of this here, Chad. Obviously, Browns, Bills, both interview Nate Scheelhaase today. I want to take a little bit of a pivot here, okay? But before the break, I asked you, I said, okay, where's your comfortability level? And I know that was a tough question to ask you right before the break. But now I have an even tougher question for you. If it's not Nate Scheelhaase, if he goes to Buffalo,
Okay.
Jim Schwartz, he looks at the Browns and he goes, I'm not doing this no more. I'm going to San Francisco or anywhere else. Or he looks at Arizona or Vegas, who are the other two openings, and he goes, you know what? I'm just gonna go see if they still need a coach, and I'm gonna go take care of that. But if it's not either one of them, it's not Kubiak. We mentioned Clint Kubiak from Seattle, the offensive coordinator. Would you be open to the idea? And just hear me out. Would you be open to the idea of a former NFL experienced coach or player? There's two names, Chad, that come to my mind. One has a tie to our quarterback. That would be Deion Sanders. The other is a multiple time Super Bowl winning coach. He has been in Cleveland before. And that would be Bill Belichick. Oh. And I know that probably drives a ton of people crazy to hear those two names because people have very strong opinions on Deion Sanders and Bill Belichick. And there's the health concerns with Deion, Belichick, and the UNC mess and all that. However, Deion Sanders, an NFL Hall of Famer, very, very good. Great, actually. He is coached at Colorado, and I know it hasn't been the most successful thing. However, I think he still has changed the mindset for a lot of those players. And his son he's starting quarterback right now with the Cleveland Browns. And if anybody's going to believe in Shedeur Sanders as being the future, I believe it would be his dad. And then on the Belichick side, you have a guy who has been in Cleveland before. Like I said, has won many Super Bowls and has done it with a late round draft pick, keep in mind, in Tom Brady. Now, I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders is Tom Brady, but I guess just give me your thoughts. Would you be open to Deion or you only bring one in, but would you be open to either one, Deion or Bill Belichick as the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns?
Okay, that is a tough question. Let me start. Let me preface it by saying this: I really, really like Deion Sanders. I really do. As a player and as a college coach, I really like him. I think he's completely changed a lot of things. Just the way you look at Boulder, right? I mean, the culture is completely different out there. Brought some life to that program. It was fun to see, celebrities on the sidelines for a couple of years. I know some people look at that as a distraction. I mean, college football is a distraction. Let's first and foremost. I mean, there's the bands, the cheerleaders, the dance squads. There's so much, glitz and glamour. I mean, it's all the pageantry that is college football. It's a giant distraction in and of itself. So that's whatever. That's neither here nor there. What they did when they got to Colorado, the Sanders family, because Shedeur Sanders was a big part of this too. They turned it around. I mean, this was a team that Colorado wasn't winning football games. It's not we we're so quick to go back to the Rashaan Salam days, and when they were winning national championship. This was not those Colorado teams. Like that's not what Deion Sanders walked into. So they brought a bunch of guys from a smaller school, and everybody transferred in, everybody transferred out. We made a big deal out of that. I think people like to pick at Deion Sanders because he's confident, right? Sometimes people get rubbed the wrong way by people who are confident in themselves. But I don't really understand. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. So I like Deion Sanders. I like him. I like his personality. I don't know that he has necessarily enough coaching experience to be able to walk into an NFL franchise that's maybe he could walk in and keep a well-oiled machine together for a couple of years. I don't necessarily think he has what it takes coaching-wise to come in and turn around the Cleveland Browns. You would just have to – I understand Colorado Buffalo, they have the same initials. That's close. I think you'd have to give him some more time. He would have to be a pretty perennial playoff contender as a head coach for me to think that is in him as an NFL head coach. And you mentioned the health concerns. I mean, he's not getting any younger. And then you want to go to the other guy, Bill Belichick, also not getting any younger. I don't know that he is going to want to come in and try to I don't know what he did at North Carolina. I'm not sure what that was all about. That surprised me. The fact that he even took that job was I won't say shocking, Eli, because a lot of things don't shock me anymore. I mean, I'm almost 50 years old. I've seen a ton of things happen, a lot of really weird things. Bill Belichick does some weird stuff. It didn't shock me that he took the job, but it was surprising. I didn't see that, for a career move for Bill Belichick. Could he come in and regain the momentum that he seemed to, have moving in the right direction back in the mid-90s before this team, was basically the rug was pulled out from under us and they were, yanked off to Baltimore or whatever. I don't know. I guess I'm not super comfortable with either one of those guys right now. I mean, Belichick is – how old is he? 72?
Yeah, he is getting up there in age, and I get the concern there, right? I mean, but this is a guy who has done it before many a times, and in 73 years old, he'll be 74 in April 16th. Okay. But my thing is, I get the concern of he's not bringing Tom Brady with him. He's not bringing that. But he is going to get a defense if it is Belichick. And I know that's a big what if, and I know it's a complete long shot. But that, just for anybody tuning in and seeing the question at the bottom, this is and we mentioned, kind of promoted it during the break. This is worst case scenario if the Browns don't get Scheelhaase, if they don't get Schwartz, if they're in a bad position. This is like, I guess this would be your best case scenario, and a worst case scenario is Deion Sanders or Bill Belichick. And I get the age concern, but they are a little bit older than Jim Schwartz. However, I guess I would just be more willing to bring in an NFL legend and see if they can fix it. Because if somebody who had that much success in the NFL level, if they can't fix the Cleveland Browns, I don't know where we go from here. And that's the thing is, like, I don't know. I just feel like it's crazy to think of a world where Deion Sanders or Bill Belichick could be, entertained. There are a lot of, things that always slide under the rug. The other name to keep an eye on too, pivoting away here for just a second from the wild card options, is Todd Monken. Yeah. We haven't talked Todd Monken, but, former Browns coaching staff here under Freddie Kitchens, and then obviously the offensive coordinator there for Baltimore. I think that's the worst case scenario out of all of them. Even mentioning Deion Sanders and Bill Belichick, I think that is the worst case scenario. It is not a motivational or inspiring hire by the Cleveland Browns. It doesn't get me jacked up and ready to go on a Sunday afternoon at 1:00, knowing that Todd Monken's leading the offense and the team.
Well, Eli, listen, maybe prepare yourself, because it felt like there was a tweet from Mary Kay Cabot earlier that felt a little bit like damage control, right? She said, "Hey, don't forget, there's a name that just, Todd Monken's flying under the radar. He's still in the running. Don't forget about him. The Browns haven't ruled him out. He hasn't ruled the Browns out. He's still there." And it felt just a little bit like, hey, guys, we could still finish fourth out of third place. Don't worry. We've got Todd Monken in our back pocket, right? Like, and that's sort of what it felt like. It felt like worst case scenario, Todd Monken's still there. He's actually shown interest as opposed to all these other guys. And I will say this about Jesse Minter. Supposedly, again, you take what you see online sometimes with a grain of salt, but supposedly Jesse Minter had some real interest in talking with the Browns, but he needed them to be ready to wrap up the search that day. They were not. So that's apparently he just didn't want it to drag on any longer. He felt like maybe some of the spots were closing up. But supposedly he had real interest in Cleveland. They weren't ready to hire that day, and he said, "You know what? I'm ready to take a job today. You had to be ready. We missed each other, whatever."
Yeah.
Supposedly there's that or whatever. But yeah, Todd Monken still is there. Whatever. Everybody says, "Oh, well, look what he did with the Ravens offense for a few years or whatever, a couple of years." Well, yeah, I mean, you have Lamar Jackson, you have Mark Andrews, you have Derrick Henry, you have these things, you have these pieces. It's not really tough to stand there on the sidelines and look like a genius when you've got players like that can go do it on the field. Again, we don't have that right now in Cleveland. So
yeah, and it's a guy who's been here before now, granted under a very weird coaching staff. Everybody was in love with Freddie Kitchens, and you know what? Accountability, this is the word of the day for me, and something the Browns should probably work on. But I was a Freddie Kitchens guy. I can't lie. He was always wearing the. Yeah. Okay, cool. Because he had the brown. Yeah, he had the Brownie the Elf hat that came back, and he had that vibe, and then it just didn't work. It just didn't work, and that's what Todd Monken would kind of feel like, except for he hasn't been here, catching the vibes of the locker room. He would just have to come in and try to inspire guys, not only on the offensive side of the football, but look at Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. We mentioned them last, before the break, and say, I'm going to lead you guys to the promised land. And all due respect to Todd Monken, I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. He could tell us 100 times that we are going to have the ultimate success here. And I already see the hypothetical, him saying that in a potential press conference. And I would just have flashbacks to Hugh Jackson and Greg Williams and Freddie Kitchens and just, I mean, oh my goodness. It feels like we haven't had like a stand-up coach here. I mean, Stefanski, the best thing we've had in terms of like at least professionalism. Maybe too much cookie cutter answers, and we'll see what he does in Atlanta. But it just feels like we haven't had a guy that like gets me excited as the head coach in a long time. We even talked about, Anthony Lynn. Let's mention that too. Anthony Lynn interviewed with the Browns late last week, and he could be in the running. We actually talked about how he was a running backs coach here in Cleveland under our guy Romeo Crennel. And I mean, we talked Monken. Anthony Lynn, does that excite you any more than Monken, or are you on the same level there? Is that like Monken and Lynn are kind of the same wave,
I really like Anthony Lynn. I feel like he's a little bit too much of a no-nonsense guy. I don't feel like he's going to put up with the stuff from Haslam that a lot of guys will. So I think that may unfortunately kind of push him out of the running because Haslam wants someone that he can – I'm not going to say a puppet. I just said it. But I'm not – I don't think Jimmy Haslam wants necessarily someone to come in and be a puppet, but I do think he wants someone that he can come in and, that'll let him push him around a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what Jimmy Haslam wants. It's so hard to relate to a billionaire. Just so weird, right? It's a weird dynamic, man. It's really hard to say who's on the same page within the organization. We don't know how much say Andrew Berry has in all of this. Again, you talked about Josh Allen being involved, and whatever. I don't know what Josh Allen knows about elite coaches, by the way. I mean, he played at Wyoming in college, and he's really only known one coach in the NFL. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That was a weird thing to me that he had so much power in that. I mean, I think when you let the players have that much power in a coach search, maybe it can be a good thing. It can also be a bad thing. There's a comfortability level there with Jim Schwartz. Maybe you don't want these guys to be so comfortable, I don't know. At this point, after being a Browns fan for so long, Eli, I don't know right from wrong anymore when it comes to this stuff. I don't know what to do. I don't know.
Yeah, and Anthony Lynn, just for those, kind of wondering what he's doing right now, obviously former Chargers head coach. He's the Commanders running backs coach, run game coordinator. And the thing, and when I read all these reports, and I do want to just give credit, that was announced by the Browns, but I'm seeing an article here from Pro Football Talk. So they're just kind of breaking it down, just got some information there from them. When I look at the Browns and in the whole thing here, Anthony Lynn, you look at the Chargers situation, It wasn't necessarily the greatest. However, it was a young team that didn't really have any little foundation. So I give him a lot of the benefit of the doubt there. My concern though is like, okay, the one thing I read in that article from Pro Football Talk is the Bills also, are trying to talk to Anthony Lynn.
Yeah.
Why are the Buffalo Bills copying the Cleveland Browns? And I joke a little bit, but it's like, go find some of your other candidates. Let us take care of what we got to take care of. We've been in this for 3 weeks. You guys have been here a week. Come
How
on,
many
man.
times have you seen the Bills logo on social media with the orange and brown colors? Maybe they're confused, Eli. Maybe they just don't know.
And this might be the point. I know there's some Cleveland fans that like, like Papa Moon, like for example, he loves the Browns, but at the end of the day, if they're not in it, he roots for like the Bills and the Lions. Those are like his squads. And I'm like, I told him one day, I said, on a side note, I said, why do you choose teams that are so hard to love? Why don't you choose just one winner or at least somebody that's in contention? He goes, I just want to see the good guys win. And, shout out to Papa Moon for that. But it's like,
it feels dirty being a Browns fan and picking a winner, right? That feels weird. Like that's completely out of the norm. That's weird.
Yeah, but you look at it and it's like this might be the real like end of like the Browns alliance with the Bills, where like Cleveland roots for Buffalo because we're in it together. If they go out and get Scheelhaase or take our top candidate, which it appears it's Scheelhaase, there might not be as much love for Buffalo here in Cleveland as far as the Bills and Browns connection. I just who would have thought? Who would have thought in a world, and it's I know we're gonna wrap here in probably the next 10, 15 minutes or so. But my thing is, you look at the Browns, you look at all this. Did you think that Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Buffalo were all going to be available? You put the Giants head coaches, but it's New York, so it's already going to be a buzz, and you got some foundation there. Like looking back, hindsight 2020, and I don't want to say, and I don't think it was. But did the Browns mess up by getting rid of Kevin Stefanski this year? Do you think they could have just stayed put one more year and maybe been the most exciting team next year once the Deshaun Watson contract starts falling off? And I don't know. I mean, that's just I don't know, Chad. I don't know.
I mean, Kevin Stefanski, it's like a pack of stale Oreos. Like they're Oreos, and you know what you're going to get for the most part. But it doesn't matter. You take it out of the pack and you bite into it, and it's stale, and it's like, oh, here we go again, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, it just feels like that experiment had just it outlived its time. It was time to move on. I think nothing personal against Kevin Stefanski at all. I'm sure he's a great person. Andrew Berry talks about he's a family guy, whatever, plays with Andrew Berry's kid. It's great. Those things you're going to forge those relationships. You want that. But coaches get fired all the time, and it's nothing personal. I think it was just time to move on and just try something different, try to get a different voice. A couple of Coach of the Year awards. That was great. A playoff appearance or two where, one went okay, one didn't go well at all. They got completely blown out by Houston. And then after that, it just fell apart. And I think once it falls apart to the point where, it's like a vase, right? It's a really nice vase, and it falls and it shatters, and you glue it together. And then every time you touch it, pieces fall off, and then it's just never the same. And it felt like it was just never going to be the same with Kevin Stefanski. It was time to move on. I think I think it's fair to wonder aloud if they did make a mistake. But sometimes you want an omelet, you got to break a few eggs, right?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And it leads me to one more question just to follow up on that. We asked this on Main Event yesterday. I'm going to pull this question up here to the bottom of the screen and let you see it. Who's most to blame in the Brown Stefanski divorce? You kind of just talked about it. It's hard to look back on it, but it's Stefanski. Like, the big rave is he's bringing a lot of his staff to Atlanta. Tommy Reese there with them. Bill Callahan joining back with them. He's even getting the front office more involved. They're interviewing guys that were, in the front office here in Cleveland with them. I'm curious because it just feels like it's going to be a lingering discussion until either the Browns get it together or Stefanski takes Atlanta to the Super Bowl. Who's most to blame in the Brown-Stefanski divorce?
I think the simple answer is we'll see. If Kevin Stefanski goes down to Atlanta and now all of a sudden the NFC South goes through Atlanta and the Falcons, right? And they're going 12-5 and 13-4 and 11-6 and winning, and quarterbacks are getting hurt. It doesn't matter who steps in. Everybody's doing a great job. It's Cousins, it's Penix, it's Cousins, whatever. Everybody's throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. you've got pieces down there, whatever, already that are very good NFL players to work with. So in some ways, it's hard because he should have an offense there. But I guess we'll see. If Atlanta wins a couple of divisions and goes to the NFC Championship game or gets to a Super Bowl, then I think it's fair to say that maybe it was the Browns. Maybe they handcuffed him a little bit with the roster. But at the same time, I feel like there were things that Kevin Stefanski could have done here. He had to have had more pull than I don't know. I mean, I don't know, Eli.
I know.
So hard. It's such a hard thing.
I get it. And we sat here and we bounced the idea around of, who is it? I'm gonna say it's just I'm gonna say it's the Browns, but only because they have just continually got in their way. Now, if they get the right guy and it works out, Stefanski falls on his face, and the opposite happens. There's a lot of below 500 records for him, and he's out in Atlanta after a few seasons. Then yeah, it is Stefanski. But right now, I'm gonna say it's the Browns just because they have a track record, a history of doing the wrong thing.
As stale as it got here with Kevin Stefanski, he still is the only Browns head coach to come back and go to the playoffs twice, right? Since 1999. So there is that. He does have that going for him. There is that.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to thank everybody for tuning in here on the Inside Edge Network. I'm going to finish with one more question here. I know I keep saying we got a few more final questions. This is my last one here, Chad, and then we're going to wrap up here. Reminder, though, everybody out here listening right now, watching, thank you so much. You see the ticker at the bottom. Follow us on the social media. If you're on X right now or YouTube or Facebook, go ahead and go to the Inside Edge Net. And I believe on Facebook, the Inside Edge Network. So go ahead, Inside Edge Net, and follow us. Subscribe. Stay locked in so you get updates. And hit the bell. Hit the bell so you get updated when we go live, because we're going to be going live when the Cleveland Browns announce their next head coach. We're going to be going live throughout the week. We had a lot of great programming. We mentioned the shows me and Chad are on. We also have Jersey Chasers, Side Hustle Wrestling Podcast. We have a lot of great stuff here. Like I said, Real Talk with Papa Moon, I mentioned that. Just a lot of great stuff here, And I want you guys to just continue to stay locked in. I know in this world, there's a lot of redundancy, especially it seems like in the media world. We're trying to create that, and I think we are creating that new voice for sports and entertainment. So we appreciate you.
Yes.
I got one more question though, Chad, for you, and I know, and I think this is gonna get exciting for everybody out there tuning in too. There's 4 NFL teams without a head coach: Browns, Raiders, Cardinals, Bills. I'm not going to ask you who the guys are going to be, who the coaches are going to be for these teams. Okay. I just got one question. Who's the last team standing? Who is the last team that doesn't have their head coach out of these 4? Who is going to be sitting there and everybody wondering, well, who is it then?
You know as well as I do, it's going to be the Cleveland Browns. And listen, maybe it's not a bad thing. But we're just preconditioned to think that everything that the Browns and everything that Jimmy Haslam does, and it's all been very negative. I mean, they not much has worked out the way that either we've wanted it to as fans, or seemingly the organization has wanted it to as an organization. It just feels like they're going to be on the outside looking in. Everybody's going to have their date to homecoming. Everybody's going to be dancing, and the Browns are going to be standing with their backs against the bleachers, watching and wondering, hey, why can't I get a date? Why do I have nobody to dance with? Sometimes you only have yourself to blame.
I'm going to pivot here. I'm just going to say from the Browns, I'm going to say it's not going to be the Cleveland Browns. I think they actually, them and the Bills are going to be simultaneous. Maybe. I think it's going to be the Arizona Cardinals.
That was my friend. They went through my mind first, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the Arizona Cardinals. Just a mess there at quarterback. Jacoby Brissett did a good job in relief. But that's not the guy franchise-wise for the team moving forward.
I thought he proved a lot this year. Okay, all right.
He did, but he's not the centerpiece of a team going forward for the next 10 years. And I get it.
I think he can help them for the next 2 or 3. I think he can be a stopgap for 2 or 3 seasons though, and play decently though. Honestly,
that's fair. But there's just a lot of questions there. I feel like with Brissett, can he replicate that success that he had this past year? Kyler Murray seems to be on the way out. We'll keep an eye on that. And Marvin Harrison just has, I don't know. They need to maybe send him to Columbus for a weekend and just let him go run on the Buckeyes field for a moment and just, at the horseshoe, because he just hasn't looked, he's had flashes, but he just hasn't looked great. Running back doesn't seem very impressive. The Cardinals, and defensively, they're just not good either. So it's like, at least for the Browns, they have 2 first-round draft picks and they have a good defense. So I do think though they're one of the last 4 teams without, having a head coach, and the Bills really just entered this. So kind of tough to, group them in, but this is where we're at.
Yeah.
I do think it's the Arizona Cardinals. Vegas has the number 1 pick. They'll probably be, they might be before the Bills and Browns too, but I do think it's the Arizona Cardinals. We had a viewer chime in yesterday and said the Cardinals are in a way worse spot than the Cleveland Browns. So that is what I will leave you with. You have some. At least we're not Arizona, the Cardinals.
We're not Arizona, but it's a dry heat, Eli. Wait, let me ask you before we get out of here. Let me ask you this about Arizona, and specifically about Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yes.
If it came up, and I'm not saying that I don't know what we'd have to give up to get at this point, maybe only like a 3rd rounder. If Marvin Harrison Jr. were available, would you take a flyer on? I mean, maybe some home cooking in Ohio might help him feel a little more.
Ooh, and I think we maybe lost Chad for a moment.
His roster?
Yeah, we got him back. I got you for a second. I know you'd ask me about Harrison if we would take a flyer on him.
Yeah,
no, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I don't want to keep bringing in projects, and that's what it feels like Harrison is at this point. Like, I know he's still a top prospect, but his confidence issues, and same thing with Mike McDaniel when he was still talked about as a head coaching option for us in Cleveland. I don't want a stressed out or broken down person. I need somebody that's going to come in energized, ready to go. And I'd rather take a chance at the draft and find our alpha wide receiver 1. But all love the Marvin Harrison Jr. I hope he figures it out because he was dang good at Ohio State. And I think out of all the receivers that have come out of Ohio State the last 5-10 years, he was probably one of the best ones, and it's puzzling what's going on there. So
it is.
Yeah. So
okay.
we want to thank everybody for tuning on in here. It is officially past midnight, 12:07 on your East Coast dial, which means 9:07 on your West Coast dial, and in between somewhere along that. Again, we want to thank you. Make sure you follow us at InsideEdge Net on TikTok, Twitter, IG, or Twitter or X, IG, which is Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. It's there, the ticker at the bottom. And stay locked in here with the Inside Edge Network. Throughout your weeks, we'll be going over everything. Browns, Cavs, Guardians, the national landscape of NFL, NBA, MLB. We talked golf yesterday at Main Event. We talked NASCAR even a week ago on Main Event. So, Chad and TK talk about a lot of great things. I know they're working on some cool things with the legal formation. Just a ton of great stuff. A reminder, in February, we will have our Guardians and MLB preview show. So keep an eye out for that. On the socials, we'll announce when that is coming out. Soon it'll be Chad, Autumn from Jersey Chasers, Rob Rizicki from the Main Event, and myself, Eli Moon. So, Chad, any final thoughts or anything before we wrap this thing up here tonight?
Cody Kessler, trust me. That's all I got. Sorry, man.
All right. Well, with that being said, for Chad Bryan, I am Eli Moon. This is the Inside Edge Network. This was a special edition. The Cleveland Browns are searching for their head coach. Will they find him? We shall find out. Stay tuned this week. Stay locked in on the Inside Edge Network. Stay safe with Winter Storm Fern. I know it's wrapping up here. Just stay safe. Check on your loved ones. Check on your family, your neighbors. Remember, give somebody a hug. Give them a high five. It is a tough world out here right now. So just love people, man. Love people.
And be nice to your meteorologist, please.
Yeah, come on. I got a story for you next time. Actually, on Thursday Topics, I got a story for you.
Let's do it.
I got a story for you. And that's a tease, what we call in the biz. For
wait.
Chad Bryan, I'm Eli Moon. This is the Inside Edge Network. Stay safe, and until next time, we'll see you.